On this episode of 10-8, we'll meet with a crime prevention specialist to discuss ways that you can help protect yourself during this holiday season. We'll meet with a criminal investigations detective about a recent cold case, and we'll honor the life of Captain Charlie Scavuzzo, who died recently unexpectedly. Don't go away. 10-8 starts right now. Welcome to 10-8, your inside view of the St. Lucie County Sheriff's Office. I'm your host, Chris Ciccio. One of the most important aspects of law enforcement is giving tips to avoid criminal activity to our community. And here to talk to us more about that, particularly with the upcoming holiday season, is Deputy Leah Stevens from the Crime Prevention Unit. Welcome to our show.
Thanks.
So you've been with the Sheriff's Office for how many years now?
12 years.
12 years, and you're currently assigned to the Crime Prevention Unit.
Sure.
So what got you interested in crime prevention?
Just helping the community, being a better part of the, with helping the community with, since I worked on the road, I saw such a great need to work kind of behind the scenes a little bit more.
Right.
So.
Well, this is your chance right now to help out the public. I know you do a lot of community meetings and quite often get questions from the community on ways that the community at large can help protect themselves from criminal activity and predators. And with the upcoming holiday season, this is a big time for criminals to start to victimize people in the public. So you came prepared with some tips today to help us inform the community. So what kind of tips do you want to give out today?
Well, I think the first one, if you're going shopping, don't go to your car with more than you can carry. You want to have at least some of your hands free. You want to make sure that you check your receipts when you get home. Keep the receipts and check them, especially on your gift cards, and check your credit cards when you get a chance to make sure that what you have on your receipts is what you have on your credit card list. You want to make sure that when you are shopping, keep your purse with you. Don't put it in a shopping cart. Don't tie it up, because they don't want your purse. They want your wallet. Make sure that you have just what you need in your purse. If you're going to take a couple credit cards, just take the couple credit cards and your driver's license.
Now, as far as, let's go back to just not carrying more than you can manage. You know, there's some serious safety risks around when you bind your hands up like that. You know, you carrying around a large bucket of gifts or whatever, it can seriously detract from your safety. What are some things that they need to look for when they're going out in the parking lot? Maybe they're shopping at night. Any tips that they can have when they're entering or exiting stores?
Well, if they don't feel safe or they don't feel comfortable, they can ask one of the guards, or wait till somebody goes out and have somebody go out with them. But they want to make sure that they watch where they're walking and pay attention. Don't be on their phone. Have their keys in their hand with them. There's a panic button on their key. If they don't feel like something's right, hit the panic button on the keys. Put their packages in the trunk and make sure that no one's following them home. If they feel like someone's following them home, call 911. You're going to give out your location, and a patrol car will respond to where they're at.
Very good. Now, a lot of our viewing public may not be aware, speaking of calling 911, and I quite often get questions about the old cell phones. When people buy a new cell phone, what do they do with the old one? Any advice? Now, you know this, and you've even told me this, that an old cell phone that has been turned off from its service provider can still call 911.
Correct. And a lot of times people bring them to the sheriff's office, and the victim advocates to give them to some of the domestic violence victims. You can also have them with you and keep one in the car with the phone charger.
Absolutely.
And you can keep one, like sometimes the wife will have one and the husband won't have one. He can have it in his car, so he could call 911 if need be, or keep one in your closet.
Right.
We get calls sometimes, even people at home that have put themselves in a closet. Keep one in your closet so you can call 911.
Right. Good ideas. Good ideas. Now, also with the upcoming holiday shopping season, online shopping and avoiding fraud. Tell us what we need to know about that.
Well, make sure that your software, security software, is updated, and then when you go to a website, make sure that you have the right HTTPS. Make sure the S is on there. That means it's secure. Right. Like check your credit card to make sure that that website matches your credit card. You know, you want to make sure that you're buying from someplace that you're familiar with. Even if you are familiar with it, sometimes you're still going to get hacked. So
Right.
make sure you just follow up on everything that you purchase, and make sure that when you buy something, you know where it's going to be delivered and when it's going to be delivered, so somebody can be
Right.
watching for it.
That was a big problem last year, I remember,
Mhm.
where Amazon or UPS packages would be delivered, and prior to the person getting home, it had been stolen.
Right.
So that's something that people need to watch out for. Maybe have a trusted neighbor look out for those
Mhm.
packages, or have them delivered to your workplace if your workplace will allow,
Right.
so that you can keep track of those packages.
And then once you do get those packages, break them down and put them in your recycling bin. Don't leave them on your curbside that you just bought a brand new HD TV,
Right.
60-inch, because somebody else might want
It's
that.
an open
And
invitation
later
to
on,
come in
right,
and get it. That's
later
right.
on they'll be in your house getting it.
And certainly, along with what you said before, keeping the receipts even from your online shopping,
Right.
for obvious reasons. But if you don't get
Mhm.
what you paid for, or it just doesn't show up.
Right. And when you do get any of these high dollar value items, take a picture of it. Take the picture of the serial numbers, so that if something were to happen, God forbid, that you do at least be able to, when you make a police report,
Mhm.
that you have the information you need.
Right. Very good. Now, one of the other things that we tried to put out every year was more about fire safety. That would delve into the fire department, but making sure that the manufacturer's guidelines on the lights on the trees, that you're following those, keeping
Mhm.
if you buy a real Christmas tree, keeping it watered,
Right.
to make sure you minimize that fire damage. So, all important. All
Very
important topics.
important. Right.
Absolutely.
And pay attention to your pets so they don't knock them down, and pay attention to your children. Make sure that you turn the lights off when you leave. Use timers if you need to, so that you don't have any of these accidents.
Absolutely. And as always, they can always contact the Crime Prevention Unit for more information, I'm sure.
Right. And we do home checks. We do our residential security checks. So if they have any problems, they can call us at 772-871-5303, and we'll be happy to do that free of charge.
Well, thank you, Deputy Stevens. It's been very informative, and I'm sure our
Thank you.
public is going to very much utilize this information for their protection as
I
well.
hope so.
When we return, we will be meeting with a detective from the Criminal Investigations Division to talk about one of our recent cold cases. Don't go away. You won't want to miss it. Welcome back to 10-8. Joining us today, we have Detective Dan Campbell from the Sheriff's Office Criminal Investigations Division. Dan, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. You're assigned to the Detective Bureau, as it's widely known in the Sheriff's Office. Tell us about that.
I started working in the Detective Bureau approximately it's actually going on 3 years.
Okay. And prior to that?
Prior to that, I worked on the Sheriff's Office STAR team, coming from patrol, and prior to that, I was at St. Louis County Jail.
And we actually worked together on patrol for a short time on midnight shift.
Yes,
Had a
we
good
did.
time together.
Yeah.
Good time. What got you interested in becoming a detective?
Closing cases. Closing cases and giving answers to the victim
Wow.
and the victim's family.
And that is a great answer. And I know that to be your heart from when we worked together on patrol, that quite often as a patrol deputy, you start the investigation and then you wrap it up and package it and ship it on over to the DB. And now you get to pick it up where you're at and carry it through to conclusion.
Correct, right.
Which brings us to an interesting topic, and a topic that I think the viewing public, both in St. Lucie County and throughout the United States, is interested in, and that's the case of cold cases. How did you get involved in cold case work?
Well, I showed interest in it, for one. These are cases that are basically setting back on the shelf with no leads to follow at that point.
Okay.
I felt that there is a need to open these cases up, relook at them with another set of eyes, and see if there's anything that we can go on to open the case back up and keep it going.
Okay.
We have approximately about 40 cases open now.
Wow.
Cold cases open. So basically, that's one of the main reasons.
And you are currently working a cold case that you're here to talk about today. Tell us about this case.
This case, the victim was Pamela Hanseling. She died February 25th, 1985. She was found by her juvenile son early that morning before he woke up to go to school with several stab wounds.
Wow. That is tragic, especially to be found by your juvenile son. Now, Miss Canteline, she is a member of St. Lucie County citizen, employed here.
Yeah, she was employed here. She had several hobbies. She was a competitive dancer and would travel throughout the state doing competitions.
And several children from our
She
conversation?
had 3 boys and 2 girls.
And one of which found her deceased. Or
Correct.
so what can you tell us about that case? The things that you've learned as taking on that investigation as the lead role.
We have developed several persons of interest, several people that we need to talk to. We're searching for information regarding this case. I do realize it's 1985. However, the case was reopened back in 1997. From what I understand and what I've read through reports, that there wasn't many leads at that time.
Right.
Now with the advances of evidence testing, I believe that we might be able to send some other things out to the lab for DNA analysis and whatnot.
And what part of the county did this occur in?
The Silver Lake Estates area. At the time, it was called Leonard Street. However, the street name now is Vernon Street.
The area off of Oleander Edwards, just to the southeast of that area.
Correct, right off Revels.
Okay. All right. And so took place in 1985, and she was stabbed?
She was stabbed multiple times.
Multiple times. And basically, you're looking for information. Certainly, in any cold case, you're looking to find out if there's any other witnesses, any other evidence that may be out there.
Correct. If somebody knows something, please give us a call and let us know that information.
Absolutely. Any other information on that case that you're able to share? And I keep in mind, and the viewing public needs to understand, this is an ongoing investigation. So there's certain things that you can't give away, but anything that would help refresh the recollection of our viewing public that may have been here at the time.
If you lived in the area, you were a neighbor of Miss Canteline. If you were some of the children's schoolmate, and if anything was said, we'd like to know.
Okay. All right, very good. Well, I certainly appreciate your time, and I do appreciate the type of work that you do. Cold case work is, as you mentioned at the beginning of this segment, that it takes a fresh set of eyes to retrace all the steps that have been taken before, and every once in a while something pops out that's new that may need to be investigated a little bit further. So it's an enduring task, a tough task, but I'm sure you're up to the challenge based on what I've known about you in the past. So
Yes.
I appreciate your work. Well, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you.
We'll be right back. Don't go away. Welcome back to 10/8. Recently, St. Lucie County Sheriff's Office suffered an unexpected and tragic loss of Captain Charlie Scavuzzo. Charlie was an integral part of the Sheriff's Office and of the community, serving with both Port St. Lucie Athletics and with the Sheriff's Office, and he was also known on the streets as Poncho as he tried to rid the streets of drugs and violence in the city of Fort Pierce. We'd like to leave you for the rest of this show with some images from his service in honor of him, his life, his legacy, and his family. Thank you for watching.
Charlie was selfless, caring, giving, and loving. He looked for the best in people and dedicated his life to making our community better. He mentored those who worked for him. He was tough, but he always took care of his people, showing appreciation when due, justification when necessary, and motivation when needed. Yes, Charlie had a reputation of not only taking care of his people, but people in general. And that included us, the command staff, the majors, the captains, even myself. He also mentored a generation ahead of us. Through his volunteer work with the Port St. Lucie Athletic and the Boys and Girls Club of St. Lucie County, Charlie found a spark within young people and ignited that spark only the way he could, inspiring them, challenging them, and making them feel loved. Charlie was passionate when it came to working the streets. Boy, he loved that. Ridding our community of violence and drugs and making it all around a better place to be. After I was elected in 2000, I talked to many community leaders, as well as during transition, I talked to many people in the sheriff's office, and they all carried one common theme. Charlie Scavuzzo was the best street crimes detective ever made. The first thing I did in office, January 2nd, 2001, I signed a personnel action form returning Charlie to the Special Investigation Unit. That was the first thing I did. I was in office only a short period of time when the city of Fort Pierce sadly was experiencing a rash of shootings. One morning, we received a call at the office. Dorothy actually took the call from a woman who said she only wanted to speak to me. When I picked up the phone, I asked her what I could do for her, and she said that she had some information on the recent shootings in Fort Pierce. And I said, well, she could share that information with me, and she adamantly said no. And I said, okay. She said that she wanted to share the information with Poncho. And I said, I'm a new sheriff here, and I went through everyone's personnel files, and I'm pretty sure we don't have a Poncho working here. And she said, you better go back and ask someone because everybody knows Poncho. So I told her, please, please call back in 30 minutes, which she did, but that gave me enough time to run around the office and ask who in the heck Poncho was. And it was at that time that I found out that Charlie was affectionately called Poncho. And at the time I didn't know it, but I've since learned over the years he was called Poncho because of his olive complexion, his perfect hair, and his resemblance to the Chips character, Frank Ponch Poncherello. To Tanya, Sydney, Nick, Lindsay, Lori, Mom Ethel, we will continue to keep you in our thoughts and prayers. As we say, there will only ever be one Charlie. We know that. We don't know who will ever replace him. You'll always be part of our family, and we'll always be here for you. God bless you.
Charlie was a true family man. Charlie and many of our times together are after traumatic events that we went through as an agency or when we lost other brothers or sisters. Charlie would tell me, he would say, Brian, if something ever happens to me, you make sure my family's taken care of. I can't tell you how many times I heard that in my career. I always assured Charlie that they would be, and just like the sheriff just said to you, it's our promise to you that we will be here for you forever. I will be here for you forever.
Days in the restaurant could be long, tedious. It was always a treat to see him walk in through the back door with that big smile. Make those 10, 12-hour days seem like I just got there. We had a bit of a ritual when he came in. Come in, shake my hand, little man shake. Handshake, short little man hug. How you doing, old man? Old man. I was only 59 days older than him, but I let him get away with it. Always followed by a smile and that unmistakable chuckle afterwards. Always knew he was kidding.
Sheriff, when you first came here, you moved Charlie to SIU, and there were already people in place there, and one of the first stories that I remember from Charlie from working there was shortly after you got elected, you had text there on the Nextel, called one of the detectives on the Nextel, and asked how a particular operation was going. And so the detective kept on answering your questions, and finally, because he didn't recognize the number, said, "Who is this?" And you replied, "Ken." And the detective said, "Who the is Ken?" And you came back and said, "Sheriff Mascara." Charlie went to self-preservation mode because he was the supervisor in the unit, snatched the Nextel out of the detective's hand and said, "I'm sorry, Sheriff, I inherited these people and you moved me here. I had no control of it. I'll move back to the road if that's what you want." So where did Charlie come from? And I don't mean New Jersey. When I was in SIU, there was a big open room, and there were 15 computers in that open room. And Charlie came in one day, and his mother's picture was the desktop on every computer. I don't know why, but he looked at me and said, "Is nothing sacred? What did Ethel ever do to you?" I guess at some point later that day, he told his mother what had happened and that I had did it. Again, I don't know how he figured that out. And I asked at one point in the conversation rhetorically, "Why would Dan do that?" And do you remember your response? "Maybe he likes me." So we see a little bit of where Charlie gets it from.
And this is from his sweetheart, Tanya. My story is 22 years long. Charlie was strong, brave, caring, loyal, and generous to a fault. I admired him from the start. I loved him always, but loved him twice as much when he became a dad. Sydney, that firstborn child, changed everything for him. When she came, nothing else mattered. He adored her. You knew that when he let her touch his hair. That was a no-no. Then Nicholas came along. He was beyond proud to have that boy. He wanted to teach him, guide him, and show him what it takes to be a man. Play with a broken arm, kid. Play with a broken arm. Nick never disappointed him and never failed to make him laugh with his crazy sense of humor. Finally, Lindsay, the baby girl. He loved her and babied her, but when it came to teaching her, he had another thing coming. There was no disciplining her because she always found a way out of trouble. She was his wild child. Charlie embraced everything his kids were and all that they are becoming. Charlie was a lot of things to many people. However, the most important thing in his life was us, and he made sure we knew it. He loved us, fiercely protected us, and would move heaven and earth if that's what we wanted. He was our Superman. Lastly, to Charlie, I can honestly say that no one will ever love me more than you did. It was an honor to be your wife and the mother of your kids. I am in awe of you. I love you. I'll miss you. And I'll take it from here.
I don't know about you, but I've been to a lot of services in the 35 years in ministry, but this has been a very, very special day. It's been a very special time, hasn't it?